Oh, this is going to be fun. So, I think this is 5. No, it isn't 5. It is 15, 16, 17, 18. Another only 4 episodes. But why do I do that? One, there's something big coming up. And I feel like that has its own thing. So I'm not going to go into that, because that is the finale of season 1. I accidentally forgot this was in 2 seasons and thought this was 1 season, but no, it is in 2 seasons, and the first season is really good. But I want to talk about that, so I don't want to start putting 5 episodes and then just put part 1. It's the same with this one. This one deals with something small but something interesting, and then I put this one in, which technically is the finale, but this only starts it, so I'm fine with that. It also builds up from this one, which is another exam. We're back. Because a lot of the times you have 2 antagonists. You have the antagonists that are sort of like the assassins, people who are doing the assassinations, and all of those stuff. Like the other transfer issue that I had in the last video, some of the individual assassins, the teacher, who is people like the teacher or the army, who have their thing. Not the one they have, but the one who was meant to come in the other one, and then left because he was fired. But all of those come back as
That is not me.
Just a sec. I can explode and break. I'm not gonna stop because I got into a good flow. But anyway, so you have those things as the antagonists, but the other one you have is, because one of the things that is important is the E-class. The thing with them being with E-class is that is, in some cases, some of the things there. Definitely when you saw it in the last one, you saw one of the things that were important, which was the exams. You also mentioned Koro Sensei say he would leave the second blade and learning about 2 different ways of attack. Which brings up this important thing of not always having the most obvious first attack and bringing something smart and clever. They also bring up both the teachers, the professor and Miss Yelovich, and say, oh, would you have 1 way of attack? No, you'd have 2. What is the second attack not as important as first? Being you need to worry about the follow-up and all that. Here's where it's interesting. They actually came back and actually was they talked about a thing about the tentacles and losing speed, which came up important in the thing with the big attack. Which each time something happens, you learn more about the weakness. Including that he isn't the biggest fan of water. Again, hence why there was the thing about the water, which is really fun. And the other thing which is so fun is when you're getting into this one, is I'll lose a tentacle after his exam. And then they did this whole tentacle thing. You also have a little side story of trying to find these beetles. Because obviously, they beat the exam. And they got beetles because they were doing a thing with class 3A and were able to get onto the holiday. Yeah, they go on a holiday. Another school trip. Usually this is only for 3A, but 3E got involved because of a deal, which is so good. They also, hence why this episode is important, were able to get a hit. So close. This is important for the next one, because the next one deals with the idea of regret and blame. Because obviously you might be like, well, isn't there a season 2? What's season 3? Well, season 2 is actually them is actually reminiscing about, no, obviously he survives. he's alive, and it failed. But it got so close through a bunch of things. So, number 1. They distracted him by putting on a film, being like, oh, here's all the darkest secrets, including his best line being like, undead, emotionally, society. And it's like, And then, he flooded the place. Because they were in sort of a chapel, sort of thing. I think it was a chapel, or like a sort of like thing near the balcony that had like a cross on it. I don't know what it is. I remember it was a dome. We were sort of like pillars. But while they were watching it, the pillars, which you don't really see because it's mostly of a, and there's 36 more of them, there's 5 hours of this? And then the pillars go. Because this is kind of where you're like, 5 hours later, pillars are gone. So, I was like, line of, have you noticed the locations changed? You also have, I know where they are. Ding ding. They're not there. Clever. They put the scent on it so that he will get distracted. And then the pillars go down. Tentacles? Gone. He's low speed. He's a little bit slower. And then all of a sudden, I think after a bit of time, the other people leave and then the tower gets ripped. So the balcony part gets torn away and the walls that are left, I think there's a bit left of the floor, but the walls left are ripped. And all of a sudden, you get some of the students go up in the air on like one of those, if you see some of the water park things, one of those like flying things, goes up, students shoot, and then the 2 assassins shoot. And miss? Where is he? He's gone. Now he turns to the ball. The ultimate defense form. Which does come in something interesting later, but it's so fun. It is so exciting. And the idea that they actually got so close is really exciting. It definitely does this thing of like getting them even closer to actually being able to do it. But it's so insane. Definitely when you show all the hard work of like some other students distracting, some other people doing recon of like researching near the area, but then they just have a drink and something's off. And as you can somewhat see with this image here, some of the students are sick and something's happening and there's a threatening call. But instead of doing what they say, they go to the area and they're gonna break in. And I'm not going to talk much about that because, well, that's tomorrow. I think I mentioned a bit about it, so you might know who is going to be involved. I'm trying not to say, but I think I'd be like, here's my hand, here's me accidentally spoiling the thing that it's going to be tomorrow. Whoopsie! But yeah, this is so fun. Definitely when it comes to who is coming up. Is definitely one of the things that I definitely think is exciting because who is next is fun and what they do with it is really interesting. And whether they wrap up season 1 with both this having a fun end to how they didn't succeed in the first exam and then beat them in 3 separate subjects and have 4 people beat them at home ec is so creative. And then you have a more of the assassin villain sides come into like having their arc after they've done their assassination attempt. You also take away half the people because like some of the people might not have some character weight right now and some might be important for this bit, which I definitely think is a good idea for ramping up the stakes of, oh, something bad is happening. But I do hope you enjoy this video. I do love this series. But I hope you enjoy. And good night.